Hey guys, this is G with Tez Bros, and if you just picked up your Tesla or about to pick it up, you probably dug around in the forums and you're coming across three types of products, which is most likely ceramic coating, paint protection film, and color change wraps. So today we talk about all three and explain to you why you should get it or why you shouldn't. So before we get into the different types of products, I thought it was really important to explain the anatomy of paint. So at the base of it, you have the body panel, and then right above that, you have the primer. And then above that, you have the base coat. And that's typically the color, obviously. And also, different types of colors can be thicker or thinner. And then what we're going to be talking about mostly today is going to be the clear coat. When you apply something like ceramic coating or paint protection film, it's really important to do something called a paint correction. And what that means is, let's say you didn't know how to wash your car, or you did it incorrectly, and you had all these tunnels or spider webs or all this minimal scratches. And this is kind of what it looks like on the clear coat. If it goes all the way down here, obviously to the base coat, unfortunately we need to do a touch up, or we really can't fix it with paint correction. That just needs to be repainted or touched up. But if it's on the surface level on the clear coat, we can actually use something like a random orbital like this. It's a rupes, and it kind of spins just like this. And we can use that to actually even that out. So when we actually cut it, we can even that out with repetitive motion. We even that out and we're paint correcting it. And that'll make sure that all the scratches are off. So just to give you perspective, this whole thing is typically, 100 to about 200 micrometers or microns. That's what we use to measure the thickness. And if we go to this Tesla over here, I'm going to show you kind of what a Tesla paint kind of looks like. I'm going to do it in the fenders because I don't have any ceramic coating or anything on it. It's just been washed, no wax, nothing. And just to tell you also, this paint thickness will vary based from area to area. Typically, they're painted in different segments, so some places will have overspray, which means the thickness will be a little bit thicker. So if we just put in the fender, you can see that we get about a 138 all the way at the bottom. Is 116. You go all the way down here, you get 156, 158. So typically, let's say like 120 to 160 range in the fender. As you go in different parts, it will be different. And later in the video, we're also going to be explaining about what parts should you really protect and what are the most common areas that get damaged. So considering the paint on this Tesla is about 120 to 150, I wanted to show you, based on the different types of products, how thick these are. This is a standard piece of paper, A4 size, or I cut it in a little bit smaller. This is about 100 microns. So again, perspective, this was around 120 to 160 on the fenders. This is 100, so it's very, very thin. So when we're cutting into the clear coat, you're cutting very, very small small portions of that clear coat. If you look at a color vinyl, this too is about 100 microns, and that's after we take out the liner, the paper liner behind. The other product we're also going to be talking about is ceramic coating. I have here, this is applied using an applicator that we'll explain later in the video, but this is only 2 microns, so it's super thin. It does bond with the clear coat. I'm going to put this away. And lastly, the last product that we'll be talking about is the paint protection film. And this, once you take it out of liner, typically is about 200 microns. So that's the perspective. We're going to be talking a little bit more in detail about this in a little bit. So PPF, which stands for paint protection film, was actually invented by 3M during the Vietnam War. It was used for helicopters so that it could help the blades from wearing out. But now it's been used a lot in consumer grade, like in our Teslas, luxury vehicles. The main features of PPF is that it protects the car from small rocks, gravels, trees, tree branches, and other hard objects. Not only that, it's actually self-healing. If I get like a brush and try to scratch it, it will actually self-heal with heat. Other things that the PPF offer is that it does help when you're cleaning like bird droppings or bug guts. So it does help in terms of ease of clean. It is supposed to last up to 10 years. And some manufacturers also give you that warranty, where if it does have a defect within that time frame, they will actually replace it, or the shop will reinstall it for you. So let's talk about the process of installing PPF. it is a very labor intensive, and it starts all from paint correction. As I mentioned in the earlier part of the video, if you don't paint correct before you put this film on, it won't look good. So this is essential. The first step is to decontaminate the car, get it as clean as possible, degrease it, and then also we clay bar it, and once it's clay bar, we do another wash, and then that's when the paint correction happens. And during this time, we're using something like a random orbital, and we're really just cutting the top layer, as I mentioned, the clear coat of the vehicle, and then getting as many swirls, scratches out as possible. Once that's done, we do another wash, make sure all debris is out, and then that's when you can finally lay the film down. It's simple. We use two types of solutions. One is called a slip solution, and oftentimes it's like baby shampoo or another kind of dish soap, and we mix it with distilled water, and then that allows the film to kind of slip, which means it allows us to lay it out and also align. And then we also have the tack solution, which often can be just distilled water, or it could also be a combination of water and rubbing alcohol. It's called tack because once we spray it, we're flushing out the soap solution, and then it allows the adhesive to activate, and then it really sticks. If you decide to remove the PPF for any reason, it's really important to understand what it could possibly do if you don't do it right. If you pull too hard and too aggressively, you could obviously rip off the clear coat. The bigger consequence is you ripping off your whole paint. Tesla, for some, have some issues with the paint itself, so you have to be very careful when removing it. When we remove it, we make sure to use steam, and then also we have a technique of pulling it so you're not putting as much tension on the actual paint surface. One of the most common questions that we get asked about paint protection film is, do I really need to cover the whole car? And yes, if you want the ultimate protection, of course, sure, you can do that, but it's really going to cost a lot of money. So some of the tips that we give our customers is say, here's two impact areas on a specifically on a Tesla, is the front area, which includes the hood, the bumpers, the fenders, the A-pillars, and the mirror. And you cover all that, and you'll be protected. Another high impact area that we mentioned to our customers is the side rockers. We found out that the paint right there is actually really thin, sometimes seeing like 70 to 80 microns. So it gets damaged and chipped like you see here. If you want to install it yourself though, we actually sell kits just for those areas and other areas for interior and stuff. You could find it at tesbros.com. So check our shop out. The next product that we'll talk about is ceramic coating. Back in the day, we used to wax a lot, but the thing with wax is that you have to consistently do it. With ceramic coating, it is a little bit more permanent solution. So this can last up to 5+ years once you apply it. Just to give you perspective, I want to bring it back up again. PPF is like 200 microns. This is about 2 microns once applied. So if you really want protection from rock chips or tree branches and etc., keying, you definitely want PPF, not ceramic coating. However, you could add this on top of PPF as well, so you get some of the features. Some of the main features is that it is hydrophobic. What that means is if you put water, it just kind of slides down, and it's pretty amazing to watch it. It does enhance your high gloss, so it looks amazing. It almost looks showroom all the time. Depending on the thickness of the coat, it can be scratch resistance. It is weather and UV resistance. It helps protect the paint in that extent. It also helps in cleaning bird poops and bug guts. And again, same thing with PPF, it does help with oxidation and corrosion resistance. The process of installing ceramic coating is quite similar as far as the prep work with PPF. So once the surface is clean and ready to go, all you have to do is getting a few drops of this, depending on the manufacturer instructions, and then you're using this applicator and doing a couple passes. It depends, some people do it 1 pass, 2 pass, and that will actually dictate the hardness of the actual coating. Once it's applied, based on the manufacturer, some require that it needs to be heated, but we always tell the customers to wait at least 24 hours, and we keep the car for 24 hours so that we will make sure that it bonds with the clear coat. Once that's done, that's when you can wash the car after several days. One advice I'd give for people who are thinking about PPF, paint protection, or color vinyl is really figure out what you really want. Is it protection or is it ease of washing your car? So make sure you decide, because if you want to actually apply PPF and you already have ceramic coating on, the shop's going to charge you a lot more because they need to work on getting the ceramic coating off before they can even apply the PPF over. And that goes the same for color change wraps. It doesn't stick as well, so you want to make sure that you know what you want before you pick your products. So the last product that we're going to be talking about is color change wraps. And this has an interesting story as well. It was actually invented in the 90s for German taxis. They had to be a specific color, which is beige. And a lot of taxi owners didn't want to paint their color beige because they couldn't sell it afterwards. So they came out with a wrap. Since then, a lot has changed. I mean, the technology got better. I mean, it's gotten to the point where you really can't tell whether it's painted or vinyl wrap if done correctly. So the main purpose of this is to be unique. So as a Tesla owner, you probably may know there's really about 5 colors to choose from. So wrapping the Tesla is a good way for you to stand out. As far as features, it does offer some protection because it is a layer of film, about 100 microns to be exact, but it really doesn't do the same that a PPF does. One, PPF is twice as thick, but it's built to protect your paint. But one thing I'd like to share is that a lot of companies are now coming out with colored PPF. You could just lay down one type of film and you're protected and you get to change your color. The other features is that it is somewhat self-healing in a way where small scratches that you had, those do heal up. Obviously, if you have a gash, those don't heal. But the cool thing is you could rip that off and then you could put another layer of film and it's almost as if it's new. Now with the technology and the reproduction of colors, you have companies like Avery, 3M, Oracle, Isonatech carry so much more colors now. So here's how we actually install our color change vinyl. The prep work is very, very similar to like everything else. And once that's clean, you don't necessarily need to paint correct. A good install will look like it's just painted and it's not really wrapped. The difference between the application process between paint protection film and color change vinyl is that paint protection film is a wet install using those 2 types of solutions that I mentioned previously. A color change wrap is a dry install. So yes, you do use liquid on the outer part, but in the inner part where the adhesive is, you don't want any liquid there. That will actually prevent from it sticking properly. So color change wraps is a bulk install. And what I mean by that, this is a term that a lot of installers use, is using a full roll and then measuring it, cutting the length and width that it needs to be, and then laying it on and then trimming all the edges and then wrapping all the edges. So we're not working off a template, we're just using a flat piece and then we're laying down the film on the car and installing it. So yes, it is also very labor intensive and it does take a lot of time and experience to be able to do this properly. Oftentimes it's not templated, it's very rare that any installer will do any templates, but if you're wanting to wrap your interior like the center console or the door switch wrap, we actually carry a bunch of templated do-it-yourself kits. So please feel free to go to tezbros.com to find our do-it-yourself kits. The removal process is somewhat similar to the PPF. PPF tend to grab a lot more aggressive, but we do the same process. We use steam and we try to rip it out slowly, but all in one piece. Colored wraps actually last, it can last up to 5+ years really, if taken care of. But typically the time frame is about 3 years. One pro tip to keep in mind is if your car is repainted, you have to let the installer know. That can actually pose a lot of issues. So just keep them in the loop of what's been done to the paint so that they know and they approach it, accordingly. Hope that helped you understand the differences between the 3 types of products, which will help you decide whether you need it or you don't. If you want more details, make sure to read our blog. And if you really like the video, please help us by subscribing below. If you do want to talk with us on our social media channels @TeslaBros. All right, until then, I'll see you next time.